some of my friends who are joining for the first time. Thank you very much for joining, and let us start our session today with the usual prayer. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramay, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkhag bhavet. In the last two sessions, we talked about how to transform our daily life to make it spiritual, to make it a happy experience. Today we would like to conclude this session, but before that, let me recall a few things and then we will proceed further from where we left yesterday, last Saturday. In our first session, we talked about distress, dukh. Distress is inevitable in life. We have to understand it. It is like the day and night. The pleasure and pain are part of our life, and therefore we should not convert this pain into a suffering. We should not inflict a suffering on ourselves by thinking too much about the pain. We have to take it as it comes. And in fact, the inevitability of pain has been explained in various philosophies. The philosophy of Buddha is entirely based on that. Then even the concept of nirvana and moksha is based on the very fact that this samsara is full of pain. And therefore we have to get out from this cycle behind nirvana, and the concept presumes that this world is full of pain. So we have to accept that reality. I also mentioned about certain varieties of pain which are inevitable, which have to be suffered by every human being who comes into this world. Pain such as old age, pain of death, pain of the birth, pain of illness, all these are inevitable which we have to suffer. These pains are inbuilt into what we call the three attributes of nature, that is Satgun, Rajgun and Tamogun. And therefore we have to live with it. Now, second thing which we discussed is that our body is the vehicle for our journey of life. This body is the vehicle for the soul. The soul is the owner of this vehicle. And therefore we have to keep this body in proper shape. This body has to be kept fit. Otherwise it can break down on the way and our journey will stop. Our journey will not be pleasant. It will not be fulfilled. It will not be successful. So for that we discussed how to keep this body fit, how to take care of our body issues. In this we basically talked about the food we eat, the food according to the seasons, the sun cycle, how do we follow the sun cycle, how do we reinvigorate what we call pranic energy through the pranayam and the sun cycle, how do we take proper sleep, which is very essential for restoring the energy of the body and also for repair and maintenance of the internal organs. Then the exercise, we have to do minimum exercise in some form or the other. You can do yoga, you can do gym, walking, swimming, whatever. But some body exercise is very essential. And we have to do the disposal of waste properly. And we have to detoxify the body, reduce the chemical intake and detoxification of body periodically. In fact, Panch Karma is one of the techniques which is used in Ayurveda to detoxify the body, that can remove all the toxins and make your body very healthy. So we discussed about this part, and then we briefly discussed about the mind. So today we will now discuss about the mind and the soul, and then we will conclude this session. Now, when we take our food, somewhat conscious that what we should eat. Because if there is some stone comes in our mouth, we immediately realize this is not good and we have to throw it out. But in case of mind, that consciousness is not there. The mind is very subtle. Whatever we see around us, whatever we hear, whatever we smell, whatever we read, all that goes as input into the mind without our realizing it. This is the biggest problem. We don't think that we are feeding it into the mind, but it goes into the mind. And it gets deposited into the subconscious. You can have an experience of this by thinking a little bit in the past. You might have seen some film in the past, long time back, and certain scenes in that film, they are nowhere on your horizons right now. But when something like that happens, immediately you recall that scene, that comes to your mind, and it tells you, oh, I saw that particular scene in that film. So that memory which is deposited deep inside our subconscious comes out immediately as and when similar incidents happens. So we have to realize that we are constantly inputting our mind with large number of things. Whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we read, whatever we smell, all that goes into the mind. And therefore we have to be a little bit careful what we see, what we do. If you see the first prayer in any of the Upanishads, you will find the prayer is see that we see good, we do good, we talk good. Why? Because then our mind will get good things as input. So the input of the mind is very subtle. It goes in without our knowledge. And therefore we have to be little extra careful what we see, what we do, and what we eat. Now, the importance of satsang in our system is precisely because of that if you remain in the company of good people, then the input to our mind would also be good. So I think we have to be a little bit selective on what we see, what we do, what we read. This should be our effort. And this should be our effort, particularly for our children who are in younger age. I think we have to tell them as well. So this is one part what we get into the mind, how our mind gets affected. We talked about vritti in the past because all these input into the mind form their vritti inside. Vritti means a sort of impression inside the mind. And then they become deeper and deeper if those things are repeated frequently. So this is what we have to keep in mind. The second thing is, it reminds me of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In chapter 5 of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it gives a very subtle description that lot of thought comes to your mind, and the thought on which you keep emphasizing again and again, that thought becomes your will. And if you keep emphasizing on that will again, it becomes your determination. And that determination actually converts into your action, because once you have a strong will and you are determined, naturally you take steps to realize it and it becomes your action. And then action becomes your life. So this is a very profound statement in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, that how our life unfolds. And you can see this life unfolds from our mind, because the thought comes into the mind, and from where the journey of life begins. So the seed where the thought comes has to be properly sown. The sowing of the seed is very, very important. And this is why proper input in the mind becomes even more important. Now, why do we get into rebirth? Particularly, why do we, rebirth is like expansion of time. You give extra time for yourself. Why? Because we have certain desires at the end of our life which remain unfulfilled. Like today, I feel that I have not earned enough money. So I try to open a new factory. I try to work hard for earning more money. So a new facet of my life opens. Now that facet will take time to complete. It cannot happen overnight. And therefore, the time is needed to fulfill a desire. So every new desire opens a new field and new time frame for each one of us. And that time frame keep expanding if the desires keep expanding. And that is how our life keeps expanding. And at the end of the life, in particularly in 70s and 80s, if we still have a lot of unfulfilled desires, then obviously that seed remains in our mind. That seed has to fructify at somewhere, sometime. And that seed, when it goes back into our mind with our death, it reopens in the form of new birth. And that is how the rebirth takes place, because it gives you time to fructify that seed, to fructify that desire. The desire has to be fulfilled. If there is no seed of any desire at the end of the life, then there would be no rebirth. Then you will, what we call, achieve nirvana or moksha. So the time and mind are directly connected. You see, when you are living the present, there is no time. It is real existence. It is what we call being, to be there. But most of the time, our mind is either in the past or in the future. Either we are planning for the future, what we will do, or we are thinking of the consequences in the future, or we are looking at what we did in the past and what we could have done, or how we did badly, or how did we did rightly, whatever. We are analyzing that. It's like, some of the animals, they eat a lot of food at a time, fodder, and then they don't digest it immediately. That goes and stores in the stomach and it comes back. And they keep, biting it or, chewing it whole day. And that is what we do with our mind. All these thoughts are deposited in our mind, and we keep recalling them again and again, and they keep, coming to our mind in the form of chewing those thoughts. So most of the time, if you, think yourself, you would realize that either we are in the past or we are in the future, and we are not living in the present. So as soon as we live in the present, the time factor disappears. The time factor is associated with our mind, but with the past and the future. So let us try and concentrate more on the future. For example, when we eat our food, let us concentrate on the food. Try to think about it. When you are taking your shower, just concentrate on the shower. When you are shaving your, in the morning, just concentrate on that. And you will realize that you are thinking so many things all those times, except what you are doing. So this is a normal practice. Each one of us do that. I also do that. But try and bring that mind in the present moment. Remove all those past and future thoughts. Bring it to the present. That will enhance your, what you call, your pleasure of living. It will give a new depth to the thing you are doing. The food you are eating, you will enjoy it tremendously. That will remain a rich experience. Then, even if you take shower, when you are taking shower properly and concentrating there, you will enjoy the shower. Whatever you do, I think it will enhance, it will enrich every single moment of life, if we can start living with what we are doing. For example, now we are listening to this talk. If we just concentrate on this talk completely, remove our mind from past and present, I'm sure you would enjoy it much more than other biology. So this is a thing which comes with practice. It does not happen overnight. It doesn't happen. It didn't happen to me also overnight. It took a lot of time for me to get away from this past and future. But we have to make an effort. This is extremely important for the happiness of our mind and for the happiness of our life. Try to reduce this. Make an effort every time whenever you do things. Make an a resolution that I'm concentrating only there. And like when we do during meditation, how much you enjoy that because you are there all the time. You enjoy it. If you are not there, you can't do that meditation. You cannot enjoy it that much. So let us learn this lesson one. Now, there's one very profound thought which I would like to share with you is that this world, we call it samsar. We also call it jagat. Jagat and sansar both means they are moving all the time. Jagat means constantly, moving. Sansar means constantly rolling. It's in a cycle which is rolling all the time. Now that is the nature of this world. But in order for anything to move, there has to be something which is static. Like the wheel of your car will not move if there is no axis in the wheel. The fan on the roof here will not, on the ceiling will not move unless there is an axis which is still. Similarly, our mind keeps on moving all the time. It's part of that sansar. But there is an axis, and that axis is our soul. That axis on which it rests is the consciousness. The consciousness provides the access to the mind to move. Now we have to slowly move to that axis of consciousness from the mind, and that is why in the meditation process, the effort is always to concentrate finally on the consciousness, which is residing in our heart chakra. So the effort of every one of us should gradually come down that let us narrow down our thinking of the mind and bring it slowly to the heart chakra or heart as such. I think that achievement will transform every human being substantially. This is an effort which will take time. It is not going to happen in 3 months or 6 months. It may take 1 year, 2 years. But if it is done with perseverance, if it is done every day, that mind will keep roaming because that is the gati, that is the nature of mind. And to bring it to the heart, it will not, once it comes and settles in the heart, it will not roam around. That is how it happens. Or in the beginning, you can bring it to the Agya Chakra, which is the place of the seat of the mind, where it can stay, without thoughts comfortably. So the process of meditation which we do is very closely associated with the spiritualizing of our daily life. We have to stop roaming around. We have to stop going in the past. We have to stop going in the future. We have to stop fears and we have to stop uncertainties. There are no uncertainties in life. Everything happens as it is supposed to happen. And certain things you cannot control, I cannot control. They just happen, they happen. The coronavirus came, it just came, nobody could control it. Nobody can control it, it will go on its own. We can use medical systems and technology, reduce its impact on the body, but that's it. You cannot completely eliminate it. Or you can take a vaccine to become immune, you can improve your immunity. So you do whatever you can. But certain things happen in the nature which we cannot control. And we can control our mind. We can definitely bring our mind to its axis, which is the consciousness. So let us keep in mind that the wheel moves on the axis. Axis is always stable. without axis being stable, the vehicle, the wheel can never move. And we have to bring our mind to that axis rather than rolling all the time everywhere. That will bring tremendous stability in our life. Now, a few things more about the mind. You see, one very important concept which I have learned in life is that let us see the glass half full. Let us not criticize everything unnecessarily. Let us not create unhappiness unnecessarily for no reason. Let's appreciate whatever has been given and build upon it further. If we have good health, let's appreciate that good health. If we have enough money, good house to eat and live nicely, let's appreciate that, because there are thousands of people, millions of people who starve. They cannot even, eat proper meals two times a day. They have no housing. So we should feel contented. We should feel happy with that we have got enough, and let's build upon that. That is one part, the positive thinking. Second part, let us have some sort of compassion for the people who are suffering. People, for example, in the floods or in COVID situation or the labor class when they suffer. And if we are in a position to help them, let us help, because that will expand our soul, our thinking. You will feel happy while doing those things. It gives you happiness. When you donate, some money to the poor people, how much happiness it gives you. It enlarges your heart. So I think the happiness comes from that kind of thinking. The thinking positive, thinking compassion for others, thinking, that other human beings respecting their existence. When you are compassionate towards them, it means you are respecting their existence. They are also like us. So this kind of thinking will also enlarge your heart. It will give you what we call, in Sanskrit, the right word is karuna. It's not daya exactly, it's karuna. There's a difference between daya and karuna. Daya is a feeling that you are doing something to others, that you have a lot of money and therefore you can donate. It's like doing a favor to others. But karuna is a natural process. It is not thinking coming out of some philanthropic activity, but it's just a natural process. So let us convert that first into daya and then into karuna. So that process is extremely important for spiritualizing our daily life. So let me recount these 3-4 factors. Firstly, what goes inside our mind as input. We do not realize what is going on. Therefore, we have to be careful with what we do, with what we see, with what we read. All that we have to be careful. Try to remain in a better company. That is one very important part. The second important part is that the time and mind are connected, and therefore desires lead to what you call new waves in the mind. Those waves are coming all the time. They're expanding the horizons, and they are expanding in all directions. And that gives you instability, that gives you disturbance, it reduces your peace. So if we can reduce our in Sanskrit we can call kampan of your man ke kampan ko kam kar de. If you can reduce the fluctuations of our mind, that would be great, and that is possible by reducing the desires, by reducing the expectations in the future. Then we talked about Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the thought leading to will leading to determination leading to action, and action becoming our life. If we want our life to be good, the seed of the thought should also be good. If the thought is good, all the following steps will automatically be very good. So we have to keep that in mind, that the seed is good and we proceed according to that process, then our life would be much better. Then the nature of this very existence of this world is gati, the movement, jagati, and the mind is connected with that movement. Mind is the fastest traveling equipment in this universe, so it is very well connected with the world. And if we can realize that connection, we have to understand that connection. But then we should also understand what is the axis of our mind, where it moves, and can we bring it closer to the axis. If we can bring the mind closer to the axis, the movement will reduce automatically. Let us try to live in the present, as I mentioned, while eating, while talking, while discussing. Let's try and live in present. I have made this effort, conscious effort, that let us try and live in present. I still get lost many times. I realize it, that I was moving in the past or moving in the future, but then you come back in the present. This is an effort, which is an exercise, which takes time, which will happen. And slowly, slowly your movements will reduce and you will not feel the pain of the uncertainty. You will not feel the pain of the fear. You will not regret anything what happened in the past. You will not have the fear of the future. I think all that will reduce automatically, bringing you a sort of, composite peace inside your mind. Okay, whatever comes, we will live with it. We will cross the bridge when we reach it. That sort of approach has to be done. Then we have to connect ourselves with our consciousness. Now, let me talk a little bit about this consciousness. People give different name to that consciousness. Some people call it Paramatma, some people call it Allah, some people call it Krishna, Ram, whatever, Jesus Christ, whatever. It doesn't matter, but it is the consciousness around which our entire existence revolves. When this consciousness leaves our body, all that machinery around it just falls down. The body falls down, the mind falls down, the intellect falls down, the ego, everything collapses immediately. We can feel it, that consciousness is the core, is the center around which everything revolves. Even in the deep sleep, your consciousness is completely resting. At that time, everything falls apart and you are so peaceful. And when you get up, you say, oh, wonderful sleep I had. So that is the experience one can get in the living state if you are able to concentrate yourself on the consciousness. Now that is a little hard practice, but it can come through the exercise of living in present. The first exercise is to live in present. Live where you are, what you are doing. And then all your worries will go away and you will start living with your current consciousness. And then slowly, you bring your thought process to your heart. And that process, of course, it's not easy, but that process will completely transform your daily life. So this is what I will suggest that we should work for. We should work for our body, of course, keeping in a good shape. So it's very, very important. Without body being in good shape, mind will also not be in good shape. You can see the sick people, they cannot balance their mind, And the people who are unbalanced in mind, they cannot balance their body. So the balance of the two is interrelated, interconnected. But at the same time, we need to balance both. You can see, now there are a lot of happenings in the Bollywood and around that area. How wonderful actors and actresses who perform so well in life, they are committing suicide. Why? It's because of mind. Nothing except in mind, nothing. They don't have any lack of resources. They have got a lot of money, they have got a lot of prestige, and they have all the facilities and amenities in life. Still they committed suicides. Not one, two, three, there are many of them. instability of the mind. So mind is extremely important, and we must keep that in mind again. And sorry, my throat is a little bit unwell since yesterday. So the body and mind both have to be kept in good health, and then we have to slowly move to our inner consciousness, the inner core of our existence. And that is where we say, I, who am I? That is I. We have to go to the I because we say it is my mind, it is my body. The body is not me, it is my. It's a possessive pronoun we use for the body as well as for mind. And in order to move to that consciousness, to that I, we have to make this exercise. Slowly, slowly reduce the movement of your mind. Slowly, slowly reduce that movement. Reduce it, bring it, closer and closer and closer, and then stop it. This is the exercise we do in meditation. We go all around the universe, and then we come to our body, and then we come to our mind, and then we come to our heart. This is the process. This is the process we have to follow in our life. The process when we are thinking, just think many times in the day. Where was I 10 minutes ago? Why was I there? Why can't I be here presently in this moment what I am doing? And that will change, transform your life. So these are the things I wanted to share with you today. That let us transform ourselves slowly, slowly through our body, through our mind, through our conduct, and through our thinking. Of course, the thinking has to be the first one, as Upanishad says, and the thinking, and then the will, and then the determination. So we have to follow the same process in this case also, that we have to stabilize our mind. That should be our determination. How do we stabilize? We stabilize it by a conscious action all the time. We try to live in present, not allow it to go too much in the past, too much in the future. It will go, but bring it back. When it goes, bring it back. That exercise has to be done. Once you start bringing it back again and again, it will stop going there. And then you open a black dustbin in your brain and put all that past into the dustbin and all that future into the dustbin, and you will realize that they will not appear again and again. You have to keep putting that in the dustbin, and it works. Don't take it as imagination. It works. You put that in the dustbin, and then they will not resurface in your forehead again and again, because this is the operating part of our brain where we operate, and all the rest are almost 95% is subconscious. So the subconscious, let that stay there, and we can't do much about it right now because we have put a lot of stuff in that. We have to do periodic cleaning, and that cleaning is possible only through proper meditation. So I hope I was able to conclude this properly, how to spiritualize our daily life. Now, in the daily routine, I would like to add one or two things which I have learned with my experience. In the morning when you get up, I will suggest that you should take a glass of hot water, not too hot, not warm only, but little bit hot. You should drink that hot water. It will help you in detoxifying your body, and the cleaning of the body will happen very nicely. When you go to the toilet and you will, have proper evacuation. That is one thing which you can add to your daily routine. Don't eat anything, don't drink anything else before you go to the toilet. And make this as a habit for your children also. Some people, eat and drink a little bit before they go to the toilet. Instead of that, take just hot water, 2 glasses, and do that. Some people even add some lemon and honey to that. That also is possible. You can add some lemon and honey. Drink those 2 waters, and then that will help. Secondly, before you go to sleep in the night, just meditate little bit. 5 minutes of meditation will give you fantastic sleep. If you are lying in the bed, just do 5 minutes of meditation. Concentrate on whatever we are doing in our session. Take one of those portions and do that. You will feel that your sleep will be better, and when you get up in the morning, you will be far more energized. So these two small changes you can make, and the other things we have already discussed in greater detail about the food habits. So I leave it there today, and any questions on the entire three-part session, you are most welcome to put your questions. I will do my best to answer to the extent possible. Thank you very much.